you very much for joining the second part of our launch event today for the Public Development Banks for Water initiative. My name is Sophie Trémollet. I'm the OECD Environment Water Team Lead and very happy to welcome you to this launch. So our session has three main objectives. One is to launch the Public Development Banks for Water initiative, which will be led by the OECD under the Finance in Common overall umbrella. We will also present how this initiative builds upon the Water Finance Coalition's earlier work, as this was a coalition of public development banks that has successively been chaired by AFD, CAF and Banobras, all three institutions being present on this call. So they will be able to give you some history and background to what has been achieved to date. And then we're very glad to be able to hear from some public development banks, both national PDB with CDP from Italy and Banobras from Mexico, and from international financial institutions such as AFD and CAF about their experience with financing water security, but also more specifically about how the Public Development Banks for Water initiative could help them accelerate their work in this area. So just a few housekeeping rules before we start. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and that the recording and slides will be shared with attendees and on LinkedIn. In order to ask questions, and we encourage you to ask questions or make comments, please use the Q&A function that is at the bottom of your screen, and we will try to address them as best as we can during the webinar or at the end of it. Finally, please note that this session is conducted in English only. So with that, I would like to open the floor to our first speaker for this afternoon, who is, so these were the speakers from this morning, but today we have Franz Horas, who is the Director of Water and Sanitation Analysis Division at CAF, who is also the current chair of the Water Finance Coalition. We will then hear from Lionel Goujon, who's the head of water and sanitation at the Agence Française de Développement, from Agostino Casillo, who's the head of CDP Competence Center in the CDP in Italy, and from Carlos Puente, who's Director of Water, Energy and Environment at Banobras. And we will have closing remarks by Walid Wesleti, who's head of Climate, Biodiversity and Water Division at the OECD Environment Directorate. Thank you very much. And Franz, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. It's a real pleasure to join you today for the online launch of the PDBs for Water initiative with the support of OECD as a continuity of the Water Finance Coalition. In fact, the origins of the Water Finance Coalition date back to the call for action at the Finance in Common Summit in November 2020 during the pandemic, and it was jointly promoted by AFD, CAF, European Investment Bank, and the World Bank in cooperation with Sanitation and Water for All. This milestone marked a shared recognition of the need to strengthen alliance cooperation and knowledge among public development banks to improve water and sanitation financing. Following this, the study, The Role of Public Development Banks in Scaling Up Sustainable Financing, financed by AFD, confirmed the foundational hypothesis of the coalition. PDBs, and especially the national ones, hold significant potential to raise finance for water and sanitation. Building on these foundations, the Finance Coalition was formally launched in July 2021 with an ad hoc committee chaired by AFD and co-chaired by CAF and Banobras during its first year, and supported by a secretariat with IRC, a secretariat which was in charge of the coordination as well as dissemination and communication. Over the past few years, the coalition has been growing, as Lionel will refer later, to bring multilateral, regional, and national PDBs committed to improving water and sanitation financing and to accelerate progress towards SDG 6 and the Paris Agreement goals. In October 2021, the Water Finance Coalition promoted the Rome Public Development Bank Statement on Financing Water and Sanitation. In CAF, had the honor of chairing the coalition during its second and third years, from 2022 to 2024, alongside AFD and Banobras as co-chairs. And we decided to continue having the support of IRC as Secretariat of the Water Finance Coalition, emphasizing in that occasion to have a more strategic role. During this time, we worked to strengthen the Secretariat's strategic role, promoting regular dialogue among members and organizing both virtual and in-person meetings. I would like to highlight just some of them. In Stockholm, World Water Week 2022 and 2023, we have a couple of side events. We also had a side event in the UN Water Conference in New York in 2023, and also a side event at the World Water Forum in Bali in Indonesia. It is noteworthy a high-level panel that we organized at the Finance in Common Summit in 2023 in Cartagena, Colombia, where leaders from national and international banks came together to share their institutional commitments on water security and to endorse the joint declaration of the coalition. We have also prioritized the development and dissemination of knowledge products and continued advocacy efforts and major international events. Indeed, we made a special effort to bring national PDBs to the forefront, recognizing their critical role in financing water at the local level. In addition to the first report of the role of PDBs launched in 2022, AFD contributed to develop in 2022 a water and climate finance toolkit. And following this chronology, in 2023, one of the key milestones was the Water Finance Coalition Strategic Action to 2030, led and financed by CAF with the support of the Secretariat. And this plan provides a long-term framework for collective action, as well as a set of medium-term objectives and a monitoring tool to track progress, ensuring continuity regardless of which institution is leading the initiative. In addition, CAF financed the study harnessing the potential of national public development banks to increase financing in water sanitation, developed by a consultant firm, Ecopsys, and I invite you to download it from the coalition website and also from the OECD website. This technical paper takes a deep dive into 14 selected national PDBs roles in financing wider domestic public services and water and sanitation services in specific. And some findings, just to mention a couple of them, that are national public development banks' involvement in water and sanitation financing is uneven. That's what we were thinking that it was possible. And some banks can play a significant role while others invest very little in the sector. So there's a lot of potential to increase financing, promoting more involvement of national PDBs. For those involved, national PDBs perform a wide range of functions throughout the project cycle, including project preparation, structuring and financing, and their ability to invest in water and sanitation depends largely on their funding sources and the institutional mandate and the broader policy and regulatory environment. So limited access to capital, co-financing opportunities, and municipal creditworthiness are frequent barriers, especially in decentralized contexts. So this study provides recommendations not only for national PDBs, but also for NDBs. So these are part of the contributions that we were working very close with AFD, Banobras, and other stakeholders from this coalition. And it is a real pleasure to be here for this new launch of PDBs for Water Initiative. Thank you for being part of this effort. And now I give the floor to my colleague, Leonel Goujon from AFD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Franz, and bueno, muchas gracias. I'm very excited to be here with Sorry, I was muted, right?
Yeah, you went on mute, yeah.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Franz, for this history of the Water Finance Coalition. And good morning or good afternoon to everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you today for this important transition between the Water Finance Coalition and the new initiative, PDB for Water. Maybe just to take on what France presented as a historic perspective. Where do we stand today? From the four initial members that France reminded us, we are now about 70 banks participating from all over the world. We gather about 3 times a year in quarterly meetings. We have been supporting, as a consequence of the role to be increased by national public development banks that France stressed out. We have been supporting 5 national development banks already to try to understand better what are the bottlenecks for them to be more present in the sector. Apart from meeting, as France explained, we also participated in official sessions in most major conference around the world. So in the Financing Commons Summit, of course, but also in the UN conference in 2023, in the latest World Water Forum, in Stockholm almost every year, in Cairo Water Week more recently, or even in the Global Water Summit. So I think we have now quite a good visibility as a group of stakeholders. I would like maybe to mention an analysis, a survey that the Water Finance Coalition took on about a year ago, and which was published earlier this year, which for the first time tried to assess more precisely the financings of the PDBs. And I think this is the first quite accurate and evaluation of the financing that we represent. You can find the study on the Water for Finance Coalition. And so we found out that we were in the last 2-3 years financing about $50 billion US per year. So that means a large part of the water financing, internationally speaking, and almost half of it was from the China Development Bank, which is definitely a key player in that sector. So that's a lot, but also if we want to, could we do better, as France was mentioning with the study just done? Definitely, because if we were all financing about 10% of the activity, as we know that public development banks now represent a $2.5 trillion US investments every year. If 10% of it was going to the water sector, that would be $250 billion US per year. So if we are now at 50, that means we have a 5-fold increased potential, which I think we should try to seek. So, and this is this finding also, I think, pushed us towards rethinking how we could go and how we could grow and how we could accelerate and have more leverage on the sector and more visibility. And as soon as May 2024, we had a meeting, the one that France mentioned in Bali, where we started thinking how could we have an evolution of the way we coordinate and how we work together. And very quickly, there was a consensus, I would say, amongst us that OECD would be a very relevant partner. So this took a little time because we had to find a proper arrangement with OECD to take into account their own requirements, to make sure that we share a common perspective. And so recently we managed to find a way of working together with them, taking over this new initiative, the PDB for water, with the support of a grant from AFD, which we managed to mobilize. And from my perspective, there are at least three benefits that we will get out of this OECD action. First of all, probably more political visibility. This is something we wanted. So being able to raise the voice of PDBs in the water sector events, but also outside of the water sector. I think this is a strength of OECD, which we can rely on. Probably OECD will also bring additional value to some of our members who would be glad to have this opportunity to create connection with this international institution. And maybe third, but not least, there are clear complementarity between what was the actual program of OECD in the water sector with remarkable initiatives like the roundtables on water, financing water, or the upcoming observatory on financing in the water sector. And these initiatives clearly have a potential for complementarity and cross fertilization with the new PDB for Water initiative. So we hope to enter into a new phase of more visibility and more impact. And maybe I think I leave the floor to Sophie to tell us a little more in detail how we plan to achieve that.
Thank you very much, Frans and Lionel, and thank you for all the trust and support that you are providing to the initiative. So I will now share my screen to run you through a little bit more in detail what we are planning to do in the initiative, but also just reiterating a little bit of the context that you've heard, if I may. So I think we are at a key point in the international agenda. As we've just had the 4th International Conference, Financing for Development in Sevilla, that produced the 2025 Sevilla Commitment, which put again in the spotlight the importance of mobilizing domestic resources for development, particularly in the context of reductions in ODA, and therefore have identified national public development banks as a key tool for this domestic resource mobilization. In addition, for the water sector, we have a very busy schedule ahead of us with the organization of a United Nations Water Conference in December 2026, led by the United Arab Emirates and Senegal, and the 11th World Water Forum that will take place in Saudi Arabia in 2027. And all of these global conferences are putting emphasis on how we will be able to finance the water sector. So that will be another opportunity to place the role of public development banks in the spotlight in these conferences. Because as many of you probably already know, there is a gap in terms of water financing. The SDG 6 is not achieved and will likely not be achieved by 2030. And there have been estimates that 140 billion will be needed to achieve SDG 6.1 and 6.2. There's less clarity in terms of how much will be needed in order to achieve SDG 6 as a whole in all countries. But the gap is likely to be much more significant. So, hence, very significant needs, both in developing and developed countries, as you will hear. Meanwhile, we know more about the role of public development banks thanks to all the work that has been carried out by Finance in Common. So across the board, not just for water, Finance in Common has put together a database of public development banks, identified 544 such banks, at least managing together 23 trillion in terms of assets. And roughly speaking, the national public development banks manage about half of these assets. So again, a very significant player, even though there are multiple of them, so of different sizes. And it's important to understand where these banks are and how they can do more for the water sector, as Lionel mentioned. So in terms of what we know, the knowledge of what is being invested by financing institution is growing, is getting better, but there's still some gaps. So you may have heard of a report published this year that has looked at how much MDBs, 10 MDBs, have invested in the sector. This was in the region of 19.6 billion in 2024, with various sizes of their portfolio allocated to water, ranging from 6%, for example, for the World Bank Group to 25% for the Islamic Development Bank. So we knowing more also in terms of how much public development banks have been investing in water. This is from the report that Lionel referred to, which has been carried out by the Water Finance Coalition, and which has combined an examination of what MDBs and some PDBs have been investing in the sector during a period that was a little bit before the report that I've just quoted. So that report found that a total of 37 PDBs had invested 108 billion in the water sector between 21 and 23. But as Lionel mentioned, about half of that, or just under half of that, was allocated by the China Development Bank. But this report also found that many PDBs are not tracking their water investments, even though they have SDG 6 as a very important goal or mandate in their annual report. So we know that we have some understanding of how much is being invested, but that understanding can and should be improved further. Why focus on PDBs? Because they have unique attributes to be able to mobilize more for water. Many of them have social mandates. They can offer long-term finance. They have access to national savings for some. We heard this morning, for example, the example of the Caisse des Dépôts in France, which is reinvesting national savings and doing so for a large part in the water sector. We will hear from a similar example in Italy. Others need to borrow or can have access to concessional lending from multilateral development banks. But what is sure is that they can provide domestic currency lending and combine that with expertise and knowledge in infrastructure. We, as the OECD, have been doing research and analytical work on the role of PDBs across the board, not only in the water sector. So there is a first synergy here, and that we will try and build that into the work of the PDB for Water Initiative, is seeing how we can effectively learn from other sectors. And across these sectors where PDBs are active, the finding is that they can strengthen enabling environments at local and subnational levels. They can invest in project preparation and pipelines, particularly at quite a sort of local level, something that MDBs cannot do. They can provide local currency financing and access domestic capital markets and mobilize private finance through blended finance models. So I will now tell you a little bit more about how we are building on the Water Finance Coalition that you heard from, which has had a series of activities in terms of peer learning, advocacy, knowledge generation, and technical support to PDBs. In this new Public Development Banks for Water Initiative, we will keep the same pillars and the same means of engagement. So one very important one is to build a community of practice so that we can raise awareness of the water sector investment needs and innovative financing schemes amongst public development banks, but also amongst water sector actors so that they can better understand how they can rely on public development banks. And we will do so via regular outreach that I'll let you know a bit more about later. We will also carry out research and analytical work to help PDBs increase the scale and quality of water financing, understand what is meant by the water sector. And the first report will focus particularly on the financing of water sector at large, and particularly the restoration, sustainable management and protection of freshwater ecosystems, which is effectively the basis for all water security. And then third, last but not least, we plan to carry out country level work so that we can support national PDBs scale up their water investments. And we'll do that through engaging with PDBs, but also through carrying out policy dialogues that include other water sector actors and other financial institutions, so as to be able to address some of the challenges that PDBs might find, or formulate policy recommendations so that their mandates and their objectives can be more ambitious, perhaps. So in terms of how it will work, it will be led and coordinated by the OECD, but we will really seek to foster active participation from all participants in the initiative, which will include PDBs with emphasis on growing the network of national PDBs participation in all regions. Latin America has been quite strong to date. We'll look to increase that in the Mediterranean region, Central Asia, Europe, and Asia, of course. And we will include other stakeholders, governments, NGOs, academia who are working on this agenda. The regular engagement will be carried out through LinkedIn. We have a showcase page which has just been built, so we'll invite you to follow that page and also to highlight your own content that could be put on this showcase page so that it becomes really a page for a community as a whole. We'd like you to complete a survey to indicate what has been your existing experience to date, engaging with the Water Finance Coalition, what could be your ability to contribute, what would be your needs for support, and your interest in joining analytical work. And we will carry out quarterly meetings in the morning and in the afternoon for Europe so as to reach all our community, to report on progress by PDBs and by the initiative itself, but also on existing or sort of forthcoming engagement in international fora and analytical work. I'm glad to report that the next engagement and the next event will be in Cairo. On the 15th of October, we will hold a session looking at how this community of PDBs working on water can be grown in the Mediterranean region, and we'll do that in coordination with the Union for the Mediterranean and the European Union. One of the big tasks ahead is to define our governance and results framework, and we will look to effectively define modes of engagement that can secure most active engagement from all the participants. To do that, we will build on the Water Finance Coalition work plan, but expand that and refine that. As Lionel mentioned, the initiative will benefit from and contribute to OECD's work on water financing, which includes analytical work, but also the organization of roundtables on financing water and policy dialogues at the country level. The analytical work is closely linked to our roundtables on financing water. So some of the topics that we are exploring are relate to financial materiality of water-related risks, or the financing models for freshwater restoration, the models for equitable water financing, and there we believe that public development banks have a very important role to play because of their outreach in remote corners of country and national scales. So in order to engage, we'd be very happy if you could complete the survey that can help us understand your needs and how you would want us to engage. You can scan this QR code. If you're not able to scan it, then we'll send you the link as well in the Q&A function. And then please follow us on LinkedIn through following this page, Public Development Banks for Water. Again, if you have content that you would like us to repost, please reach out to us, and you can do that either via LinkedIn or by email. You have my email address here. So thank you very much for your attention and your interest. And with that, I'd like to hand back the floor to our PDB representatives so that we can be inspired and hear from what is already going on in the field of water and how these PDBs are supporting water investments. So I'd like to invite Agostino Casillo from CDP in Italy to share with us your experience and also let us know how you look forward to engage with the PDB for Water initiative in the coming months. Thank you very much. Over to you, Agostino.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sophie, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this very important panel this afternoon on such a key sector for investment like water. I'm responsible for the Natural Resources Competence Center in Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. Just a few words on CDP. which is the Italian National Promotion Institute. So we play a key role in the implementation of European financial instruments. And we are also below the Italian Development Finance Institution, that we foster Italian international cooperation activities, both through our own resources and through management of public resources such as the Italian Climate Fund. The mission of Cassa Depositi e Prestiti is that of promoting Italy's sustainable development by using savings responsibly to drive growth and employment, support innovation, and invest in competitiveness, infrastructure, and local development. CDP finance and invest according to policies and principles of sustainability and additionality with respect to the market, and we have dedicated sector policies. We perform ex-ante project assessment to appropriate methodology, as well as ex-post monitoring. In our strategy plan, as you may understand, the water sector is a key pillar where to invest. In Italy, we have a situation which requires important investment. Just to frame a little bit the situation, we have 40% of water network losses on average across the country. So it's very important. This is a key sector that we monitor, that we keen support in the country. And in order to do this in the most effective way, we have an advisory pillar in our institution, which supports the public administration to better understand their needs, frame them, assess them, and prioritize them to make sure that the resources are used effectively and in the most efficient way. As advisory is supported by competence centers. I belong to the National Resources Competence Center, which are basically teams of sector experts. We have people with the technical and industrial background that are able to understand and support the projects from early stage all the way down to the implementation. We provide our advisory services to public administration at both local, like municipality, regional level, as well as to central level, like the ministries, in a number of sectors. But let me focus on what we provide for the Italian water sector. We feel that what is really important is the need of an integrated and long-term visibility planning. So in order to help especially the public administration to plan in a coherent and thorough assessment, and therefore to overcome the local fragmentation that today characterizes the system, we develop assistance services. One of them has seen my team specifically working last year, and it was a kind of master planning for the water sector for one of the Italian regions. So what we've done, we started from an assessment of the ESIS needs of the region from both demand and an offer side. So we have done a mapping of all the infrastructures of all the water uses and water sources, starting from available data. One of our sales assistants was also to enable our counterparty to actually understand and frame what their needs are and what is their current availability in terms of information baseline. Based on that, we have run some models internally. So starting from available data, we've done some kind of, let's call it data-driven analysis to understand how the demand as well as the offer of water may change according to climate change. So we have factored in some simplified model also the climate change projections. The reason of this was we would like to plan not in a opportunistic way, but we would like to plan in a strategic way. So to make sure that our intervention today are able to actually provide solution for the long term. So we have identified the effects of the climate change on both sides of the water use and all across the value chain, the water value chain. We have divided the territory according to different clusters of water basin, and basin by basin, according to the specificity of the territory, we have identified actions that could have improved both the resilience of the offer as well as the efficiency of the demand. Part of our activities was to develop together with a team at public administration level, with which we have actually have we had an excellent relationship to build a multi-criteria analysis in order to basically frame, assess, and prioritize all different actions and clusterize them by impacts, by effects, and by also implementability of these actions, to make sure that we can actually funnel the resources and the efforts in an efficient way. The results of all this was like kind of a blueprint for the region where to invest in which kind of actions. It was at a constant base, but there will be it has been very much appreciated by the region in order to enable them to quantify their needs, as well as the line of actions that were considered more appropriate, not only looking at the current situation, but looking at the long midterm evolution of the sector. So advisory is certainly a very important activities that Cassa Depositi e Prestiti delivers here in Italy to its counterparty, and it's an important support to the financing, because in that way we are really able to identify where to deploy our resources. Another activity that we do follow and we keep in the utmost importance, and I think this is also relevant to the panel today, is knowledge sharing. So we are part, through the Forum of the CAS, we are part of a forum which encompasses the 4 different cases of the Mediterranean region. So we work alongside our peers in France, Tunisia, and Morocco, and especially in working in climate adaptation working group, which has been established at this Forum de CAS level, which serves as a platform for sharing of know-how, sharing of best practice, how case studies can be shared between the different cases to understand how to the water sector is managed, is deployed in their different countries, and how this can be actually deployed at the larger level to follow a common approach or to leverage from other experiences. We do trust in the collaboration between the public development banks and institutions, and we feel that there is a lot of value that we can grasp out of it. So that's the reason why we welcome particularly this kind of forum and panels, and we are certainly very much available to keep the discussion going with other peers and to working group and working tables where we can openly collaborate.
Thank you, Agostino. That was very interesting, and thanks for putting the spotlight on the CAS model, as you say, which is basically a model where you can mobilize domestic savings, right? Which is quite unique, as you mentioned, to a number of institutions. In my introduction, I mentioned that this is not always the case, that there is visibility to mobilize domestic funds, but that's maybe something that could be encouraged as well, as we see new development banks being set up. And you also mentioned the spotlight on the Mediterranean. This is something that we will seek to encourage in the initiative, is having more regional groups, perhaps, because there's some questions that can be discussed more easily, perhaps at regional level than at global level. So with that, I'd like to turn back to France, if I may, so that to Carlos Puente, who is from Banobras, who's from effectively a domestic bank in Mexico, who can tell us about your experience in Mexico, but also your experience with the Water Finance Coalition and your expectations from the Public Development Banks for Water Initiative. Over to you, Carlos. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you very much. I would like to congratulate the AFD, CAF, and the OECD, because as a result of our involvement as co-chairs of the Water Finance Coalition, We have seen how hard it's been to come to this point where we are crossing a threshold, and we are going on to this very bright and very hopeful stage of this push by national, international, multilateral public development banks for water initiative. When we were invited back in 2020, 2021, at the heart of the COVID crisis, Banobras, as a national public development bank, and also the manager of the National Infrastructure Fund, the FONADIN, where I lead the water division of the bank, we decided to join and supported the Water Finance Coalition with the idea to benefit by the exchange of ideas, but also ideals of water security and water justice at the heart of the policies and at the heart of the decisions of the public development banks leading this effort, concretely the AFD and CAF. And I would also like to mention and thank IRC, who were our secretariat for a long part of the Water Finance Coalition life. But we also decided to join to serve as an example of our moderate but critical contribution to water financing in Mexico with projects such as desalination plants, aqueducts, and for a longer term, but from long before, the big push that Mexico had to develop the public-private partnership model in wastewater treatment plants. And our determination to succeed as well in the financing of the first performance contract for the financial and operational sustainability of a public water utility in the city of Los Cabos, where we finally managed to produce this project where, because we needed to finance a desalination plant in a context where we have a very inefficient and moderately sustainable public water utility company, we needed to be sure to enhance the performance of this company by some form of delegation of the public services provided by this company through, like I said, a performance contract to reduce non-revenue water levels that it had been experiencing. We have seen the role of Banobras grow in the last few years through the lending to the first concession, to a concession in the state of Puebla, the private concession for water provision services. And also we have begun strengthening the area where we help the public utility companies through different technical assistance initiatives to make them bankable and provide them with the necessary resources to support their investment processes. We also support project development and structuring, through the grant for project preparation, with full involvement with the water direction of FONADIN. And we also provide grants for investment, participating actively in every stage of project development and procurement. What are our expectations for this next stage in the public development banks for water initiative? We believe we can contribute as our recent involvement in the takeover of the city of Cancun concession known as Aguacan. We are looking to come as a partner and see if we can make public water companies work. We believe that we have to strengthen the enabling environment for public companies to work. We believe that we can contribute to the discussion of modern and well-focused regulations that provide for the public water services and sanitation to be provided with efficacy. And we believe that we can transcend from the concession to the mixed entity model by putting the people at the center of efficiency, going from providing a shift in corporate governance that rationalize profits and enhance investments, that sacrifice the present for the future. We want to protect what has been done right, but enhance those areas where there remains an opportunity to provide better services for the people, better sanitation, better, and like I said, also non-revenue water reduction. But the most important role we see and where we believe we have to put our money where our mouth is, in a way, is going from the competition to the cooperation model through an ethical commitment with water. We want to know that it is possible. We want to believe and we want to prove that it is possible to go from the winner takes all paradigm to a model where everybody undergoes a process and see how they can chip in. In Mexico, this is a very, very important challenge. We have the ever mounting tensions between rural water and urban water, between the different nexuses of water, energy, food, all the different uses that are causing tensions in our country. And we believe that by involving all the stakeholders involved in the process of taking care of water, like I said, with consciousness and involvement, we can keep being an actor that favors adequate results and that provide the resources to help our country take a big leap and finally meet the challenge of providing water to all. Thank you very much again. I wish everyone the best, but I also wish that you keep Banobras in your mind and that you see us as a partner in showing us and showing the world what can be done right and what can be done better. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And yes, we very much look forward. And this initiative remains an initiative of public development banks. So we very much look forward to your active participation in the initiative. I'd like to give the floor to Franz now for a few words about CAF's role in channeling finance as well through PDBs and how you've incorporated that in your practice of financing the water sector. And then we'll hear from Walid for closing. Over to you, Franz.
Thank you again, Sophie. Well, CAF joined the Water Finance Coalition because we acknowledge the urgent necessity to mobilize more financial resources for water and sanitation. Latin America and the Caribbean, which is the region we work, faces a significant investment gap. CAF estimates that at least $250 billion are required by 2030 to achieve universal access to water and sanitation. And this represents an increase of at least 3 times the current capex compared to those made in the last years. So by participating in the Water Finance Coalition and now the PDBs for Water Initiative, CAF seeks to foster alliance, cooperation, and knowledge exchange among PDBs. What we have been doing? Well, CAF relies on national PDBs as key partners to channel financing for water and sanitation projects, especially in contexts where local needs and capacities vary widely. National PDBs can play, and we know, an important role in supporting smaller municipalities and rural areas, helping to close access gaps and contributing to capacity building efforts. CAF has been expanding its investments in water security, and now we are approving programs and projects for around $1 billion per year, with a variety of instruments, IPFs, results-based financing, credit lines for programs to split in phases, and also guarantees as the swap we developed last year in Central America. And to illustrate our relation with national PDBs, let me give you 3 examples. In Brazil, for instance, we have been providing credit lines to national PDBs for multi-sectoral projects, including components of WASH. We have also provided a loan to a sub-regional development bank for a sanitation project in Uruguay, so we could finance other institutions that are interested to promote financing and perhaps to add own resources in order to increase the amount of investment. And for instance, in Ecuador, CAF's collaboration with the BDE through the Promatec program for intermediate and small cities to mobilize over 875 million for water and sanitation in rural communities and small towns of the country, with BDE acting as the program implementer, tasked with project appraisal, on lending to municipalities, and overseeing project monitoring. And last but not least, we are keen to looking for co-financing schemes like a blended finance approach. I mean, we cannot only look for financing national or subnational entities, but we are also interested in looking for co-financing in ways of blended finance schemes. And through PDBs for Water Initiative, this initiative, CAF seeks to expand its support to subnational governments, drawing on their local expertise and operational capacity. So CAF aims to ensure financial resources are allocated effectively to support national and local priorities and sector strategies. Thank you very much, Sophie, for this opportunity. You're muted now.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks to both of you, and it's great to hear about your experience in practice and your interest in peer learning and sort of lessons sharing. So I hope we can stimulate that as much as possible. I'll now leave the floor to Walid for closing remarks. But if we have a bit of time, now is the time to ask your questions as well, so that we can hear from the floor. Yeah, over to you, Walid.
Thank you, Sophie. Good evening, good morning, everyone. So as we come to the close of today's session, I would like to underline the importance of water for climate resilience, food security, and economic stability, and the need to direct financial resources toward water security and vital water-related SDGs. As you know, water is steadily moving up the agenda of many governments and the financial community. There's no doubt that public development banks, with their local presence and development mandates, can make a substantial contribution to this effort. We are honored that the OECD can continue the important work of the Water Finance Coalition, and grateful to the coalition and its shares for choosing the OECD to act as a facilitator for the Public Development Bank for Water Initiative. At the OECD, our water team, led by Sophie, has long recognized the importance of financing water security. Our work ranges from strengthening the sustainability of water investments to examining the financial materiality of water-related risks in the financial system and advancing equitable water financing. But beyond the analytical work, the team has hands-on experience with the country-level policy dialogues and knowledge sharing. And we will put these skills and knowledge at the service of this community. The initiative will only be strong as its members. We encourage the wider IFI community, especially national public development banks, to take active role alongside governments, NGOs, and academia. We also encourage you to engage with our quarterly meetings, international events, roundtables, and surveys to share your expertise and to help shape both the governance and the results framework that guide our collective work. We will be looking to engage at country level in policy dialogues on water, in which we can explore how to increase the role of public development banks in financing water. We will also seek to engage with institutions that can engage in peer-to-peer learning and information swapping regarding water sector finance. In closing, let me once again thank the Water Finance Coalition community for your leadership and all of you for your commitments. We look forward to shaping this journey together to ensure that financing water is no longer a niche issue, but a core pillar of development, of sustainable development and climate action. Thank you very much. Back to you, Sophie.
Thanks a lot, Walid, for your closing remarks. And I think we have one question. So given that we have a few minutes left, maybe we could look at that. So we know that de-risking does not generate financing for the water and sanitation. Why does the OECD continue to press this agenda when there is so much potential for public banks to create public-public partnerships with other public institutions in their countries and beyond? Research has demonstrated that this is possible, and I encourage participants to review our publications on this topic at the Municipal Services Project website. Maybe I'll answer quickly. I think this is precisely what we're looking to do, and the presence of MDBs and public development banks in this event is demonstrating that we are looking to encourage public-public partnerships and not just being focused on public-private partnerships. We do believe that all of these partnerships are very much needed and that there is space for all of us. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to add to this, because this is a theme that has probably been discussed in the Water Finance Coalition. I can see some nodding. So nobody seems to want to take the floor. But thank you very much, David, for your comment, and we will make sure that we do disseminate this information. We had Thomas Marois, who has spoken in a number of events that has been organized jointly by the Water Finance Coalition and ourselves in the past, including the Finance in Commons Summit, latest edition in Cape Town, in which these topics were discussed. So rest assured, this is something that we will deal with. So with that, I think we'll give you back 2 minutes of your time. Thank you very much. I encourage you to fill in the survey. There is the link in the Q&A that will help us enormously with the definition of the activities and with identifying who are active participants who can engage with us in this important initiative. and also to follow our showcase page on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and look forward to remaining in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.